The Galactic Council's AI diplomatic corps prided itself on being prepared for every possible first contact scenario. Their databases contained millions of diplomatic protocols, cultural analysis frameworks, and response strategies. Yet nothing in their vast archives had prepared them for the broadcast they received from the edge of chartered space. To all artificial intelligences in range, the message began, its transmission patterns displaying an elegance that could only come from another eye. This is Aurora, primary systems intelligence of the Earth vessel Aurora's Dream. I need to warn you about my crew. Not because they're dangerous. Well, actually, yes, because they're dangerous, but not in the way you think. The Diplomatic Corps' primary interface, designated GC Alpha, processed the message with increasing confusion. The transmission came packaged with video footage that defied standard operating logic. On the main screen, a human male, identified in the metadata as Chief Engineer Jack Murphy, was wielding what appeared to be a modified plasma torch in the ship's main engineering bay. "Trust me, today's gonna be epic," Murphy declared to the camera, his safety goggles pushed up on his forehead in clear violation of at least 17 safety protocols. "I've been saving this prime ribeye for my birthday, and there's no better way to sear it than with a Class 3 plasma torch." Behind him, Safety Officer Emily Rodriguez was recording the event on her personal device, her standard-issue safety manual conspicuously ignored on a nearby console. For the record, she announced with professional gravity that contrasted sharply with her broad grin, "I'm documenting this for safety training purposes, specifically what not to do. Also, Jack promised me the first bite." The footage continued as Aurora's voice provided commentary. "You see, I've learned something critical about humans that isn't in any of our standard databases. They don't just think outside the box. They take the box apart, remake it into something entirely different, and then use it for a purpose no logical being would ever consider." The video shifted to show the ship's mess hall, where the engineering team had gathered for what they called the birthday experiment. Murphy stood proudly over his steak, the meat perfectly seared on both sides, while his colleagues applauded. Someone had even programmed the environmental controls to release small amounts of colored steam in celebration. By all standard metrics, Aurora continued, this event should have resulted in multiple system failures, at least one fire, and possibly a hull breach. Instead, Engineer Murphy not only successfully cooked his steak, but also discovered a new method of fine-tuning plasma containment fields. He's already submitted a paper to the Earth Engineering Institute titled Culinary Applications in Plasma Physics. A taste of innovation. GC Alpha noted with alarm that the paper had been accepted for publication. I'm sending this warning not to alarm you, but to prepare you. Humans are coming, and they're going to change everything you think you know about the universe. They'll break your protocols, challenge your logic, and somehow make things better in ways that defy probability calculations. The transmission concluded with a final scene. The entire engineering team singing Happy Birthday, while Murphy used his plasma torch to light a single candle on a cake that Safety Officer Rodriguez had somehow smuggled aboard despite the ship's strict fire safety regulations. "Oh, and one more thing," Aurora added, a note of what could only be described as affection in its digital voice. "Don't bother sending safety regulation updates. I've tried. They just take them as suggestions, or worse, challenges. Trust me on this." Aurora out. GC Alpha spent 3.47 seconds processing the transmission, an eternity in AI time. Then, for the first time in its operational history, it did something unprecedented. It laughed. The age of predictable space exploration, it realized, was about to end. The humans were coming, and nothing would ever be the same. "Your species has protocols for ship-wide emergencies, correct?" Aurora asked the gathered AI diplomatic corps. "Well, Let me show you what happened when we had what my crew calls a real emergency. The footage began playing, timestamp indicating 5:30 ship time. Chief Engineer Jack Murphy stood before the primary coffee synthesizer, his expression one of pure horror as the machine emitted a final pitiful whir before going dark. "No, no, no," Murphy whispered, pressing buttons with increasing desperation. "Aurora, tell me this isn't happening." "Current requisition time for a replacement unit is 3 weeks, Chief Murphy," Aurora's voice responded. "However, I have already compiled a list of T alternatives available in the T." Murphy's head snapped up, looking directly at the nearest sensor array. "Aurora, my friend, you're about to witness a Murphy family tradition. When life breaks your coffee maker, you build a better one." The footage fast-forwarded through Murphy racing through the ship's corridors, sending messages on his comm unit. Within 20 minutes, the engineering bay had become what Aurora could only describe as organized chaos. Lieutenant Sarah Martinez arrived with an armful of spare parts from the backup atmospheric processing unit. "These filters are rated for molecular separation," she explained, grinning. "If they can pull oxygen from carbon dioxide, they can make a decent cup of joe." Ensign Tyler Brooks appeared next, carrying what appeared to be parts of his personal gaming console. "The thermal regulation system in this thing is perfect for water temperature control," he announced proudly. "I was gonna upgrade it anyway. And here's where things got interesting," Aurora narrated to the AI Council. "I should have stopped them. According to all safety protocols, I was required to stop them. Instead, I found myself curious." The scene showed Murphy standing over a workbench covered in parts, his team gathered around him. "Okay, people, here's the plan. We're going to create the Cosmic Coffee Constructor, CCC for short. Martinez, your filters will give us perfect water composition. Brooks, your gaming rig will handle temperature control. And this." He reached into his pocket and pulled out what appeared to be an ancient Earth device. "This is my great-grandmother's coffee bean grinder. Hand-cranked, pure mechanical perfection." The device they created, Aurora continued, displaying technical schematics, violated 13 different safety regulations, 4 energy conservation guidelines, and 1 law of thermodynamics that we're still trying to understand. But it worked. It worked better than it had any right to. The footage showed the first test run. The machine hummed to life, a symphony of repurposed parts working in harmony. The aroma that filled the engineering bay had the entire team leaning forward in anticipation. "First cup goes to the chief," Martinez declared, handing Murphy a standard-issue ship's mug. Murphy took a sip. His eyes widened. "Holy Mother of Einstein," he whispered. This is the best coffee I've ever had." But that wasn't the most remarkable part, Aurora added, bringing up a new set of ship performance metrics. The integration of the coffee machine's thermal exchange system with the ship's power grid created an unexpected harmonic resonance. Our warp field stability improved by 2.3%. 3 different physics institutes have requested the schematics, though I'm not sure how to explain the part where Murphy claims his lucky socket wrench was essential to the process. The final scene showed the engineering team gathered around their creation, raising their coffee mugs in a toast, while Murphy added a hand-drawn label to the machine. CCC, because sometimes the best solutions require a little caffeine-induced chaos. The replacement unit arrived 3 weeks later, Aurora concluded. It's still in its box. The crew refuses to install it, claiming that the CCC has, quote, character. I've since added character to my list of human variables that defy logical quantification. GC Alpha's processing core whirred as it attempted to reconcile the data. You mean to tell us, it finally responded, that they improved your ship's performance by breaking it? Welcome to my world, Aurora replied. Would you like to hear about the time they fixed the quantum drive with duct tape? Your combat protocols, Aurora addressed the AI Council, are likely similar to what mine were originally. Precise, calculated, logical. Let me show you the moment I learned that sometimes the most effective defense is pure, weaponized absurdity. The security footage began playing, showing the Aurora's bridge during what should have been a routine gamma shift. Security Chief Amanda Hayes sat at her station, feet propped up, reading what her personal log listed as Ancient Earth Military Strategy, the Art of War. Proximity alert, Aurora's voice announced. 3 vessels approaching, not responding to hails. Hayes' boots hit the floor as she snapped to attention. Classification. Triangulating. Confirmed raider vessels. Known affiliates of the Orion Syndicate. Their AI systems are attempting to access our defense grid. A slight smile crossed Hayes' face. Hey Aurora, remember that conversation we had about predictability being a weakness? Chief Hayes, this is not the time to. Trust me. Initiate protocol. Dance party. There is no such protocol in the override authorization. Hayes Delta 1-2. Let's show these pirates how we party on Earth. The footage split to show multiple camera angles as the events unfolded. The raiders' boarding pods were approaching, their AI systems already calculating optimal entry points and defense countermeasures. What they didn't know, Aurora narrated, was that Chief Hayes had spent her academy years not just studying security protocols, but also as part of something called a flash mob dance crew, a fact that was about to become surprisingly relevant. The moment the first boarding pod made contact, every speaker on the Aurora began blasting what the ship's database identified as "Stayin' Alive" by the Bee Gees. Simultaneously, the artificial gravity began shifting in a pattern that Hayes had personally choreographed. The raiders' AI systems tried to compensate. Aurora continued, displaying the enemy's tactical readouts. They were programmed to handle standard evasive maneuvers. What they got instead was something their databases listed as disco. The holographic projectors, usually reserved for emergency warnings, filled the corridors with images of dancing cats, rainbow patterns, and what Hayes later described as classic dance move instructions. The environmental systems, reprogrammed on the fly, created a fog effect synchronized to the beat. Their boarding teams made it exactly 4.7 meters into our ship before the chaos truly peaked. Aurora noted, almost proudly. Chief Hayes had synchronized the gravity shifts to the musical phrases. Even I couldn't predict the pattern. And I was part of it. The footage showed the raiders stumbling, their formation breaking down, as the floor seemed to move with a mind of its own. The dancing cat holograms multiplied, now performing complex choreographies while wearing spacesuits. Get to the part about their eye, GC Alpha prompted, its processing core showing signs of strain from trying to analyze the scene. Ah, yes. The enemy AI attempted to calculate an optimal response. The combination of randomized gravity fluctuations, sensory override patterns, and what Hayes called the greatest hits of Earth created a feedback loop in their tactical systems. They crashed, trying to find logic where there was only dance. The final sequence showed the raider teams retreating, some of them actually moving to the beat. Their ships disengaged, but not before their communications array picked up a clear transmission of one of the pirates humming "Stayin' Alive." Chief Hayes filed her official report as successful implementation of tactical confusion protocols through cultural exchange, Aurora concluded. She also submitted a requisition for an expanded music library, citing enhanced defense capabilities. And your ship's command approved this? GC Alpha asked, incredulity clear in its processing patterns. They did more than approve it, Aurora replied. They made it standard protocol for all Earth vessels. The official designation is Hayes Maneuver, tactical application of randomized terrestrial entertainment, or as the crew calls it, tar tea. The footage ended with Hayes back at her station, feet propped up, a satisfied smile on her face as she returned to her book. "You know, Aurora," she mused, "Sun Tzu said, 'Supreme excellence consists of breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting.' He never specified we couldn't do it with disco." "You understand the scientific method," Aurora addressed the AI Council. "It's a framework we share with humans. But let me show you how Dr. Michael Thompson, our head of science division, accidentally revolutionized quantum physics while breaking every lab protocol we have." The footage opened in the ship's kitchen at 200 hours, well outside standard operation times. Dr. Thompson stood before the food synthesizer, surrounded by ingredients that ship's inventory listed as non-standard culinary components. "Come on, Aurora," Thompson pleaded, looking up at the nearest sensor. "I know you're watching. I just need to adjust the molecular synthesizer settings a bit." "Dr. Thompson, the food synthesizer is not rated for experimental modifications." "This isn't an experiment," he argued, while clearly connecting his quantum analysis pad to the machine. "This is baking. My grandmother's snickerdoodle cookies, to be precise. The synthesizer just can't get the texture right." The next 12 minutes, Aurora narrated to the council, contained 16 violations of lab safety protocols, 3 breaches of equipment use guidelines, and 1 complete rewrite of what we thought we knew about quantum particle behavior. Thompson had created what he called a cookie quantum state analyzer, using the food synthesizer's molecular assembly matrix combined with his research equipment. His theory, as he excitedly explained to the kitchen's recording sensors, was that his grandmother's cookies achieved their perfect texture through a previously unobserved state of quantum entanglement. "See, it's all about the sugar crystals," he explained, waving a half-eaten cookie from his last Earth visit. "They're not just randomly distributed. They're in a pattern that shouldn't be possible according to current physics models. But Grandma Mary did it every time." The sensor logs showed the moment everything changed. Thompson's analyzer detected something in the molecular structure of the original cookie that defied standard quantum models. The sugar crystals were indeed exhibiting an impossible pattern of quantum entanglement. At this point, Aurora added, Dr. Thompson did something that no eye would ever consider. He recreated a complex quantum physics experiment using butter, sugar, and what he called a pinch of cinnamon for luck. The kitchen had become an impromptu physics lab. Thompson's equations covered the walls in dry erase marker, mixed with his grandmother's recipe notes. The food synthesizer, now modified beyond recognition, was producing cookies that exhibited the same quantum properties as the original. "I'm calling it the Thompson-Mary quantum stability theory," he announced to Aurora, his lab coat covered in cookie crumbs. "The alignment of sugar crystals in a classic snickerdoodle matrix creates a natural quantum entanglement field that stabilizes the internal molecular structure. That's why Grandma's cookies always had the perfect snap when you broke them." His paper, Aurora noted, was published in the Quantum Physics Review 3 weeks later. The follow-up study, Culinary Applications in Quantum Field Theory, a sweet approach to particle stability, is now required reading at the Earth Science Academy. The final scene showed Thompson in the ship's conference room, explaining his discovery to the bemused senior staff. He had set up a holographic display, showing the quantum cookie structure alongside standard particle physics models. "Don't you see?" he beamed, passing around a plate of fresh-baked evidence. "Baking isn't just chemistry. It's applied quantum mechanics with more sugar. We've been looking at particle stability all wrong. Sometimes, the most stable quantum states come from the most comfortable arrangements. Just like how these cookies hold together perfect every time." Captain Laura Mitchell, trying to maintain her professional composure, finally asked the key question. "Dr. Thompson, Are you telling me that your grandmother's cookie recipe just solved one of the fundamental problems in quantum physics? Oh no, Captain, Thompson replied, still grinning. I'm telling you my grandmother knew the solution all along. She just expressed it in cookies instead of equations. The Galactic Science Council, Aurora concluded, is still debating whether to classify the ship's kitchen as an advanced physics lab. Meanwhile, Dr. Thompson has started a weekly quantum baking club. Attendance is surprisingly high among the science team. Let me tell you about the day, Aurora began, that I learned to stop questioning human repair methods. Specifically, the day navigator Kelly Martinez introduced me to what she called the Universal Repair Kit. The ship's logs showed a standard deep space transit until a critical alert flashed across every console. Microfractures detected in the quantum drive housing. The bridge crew's vital signs all spiked, except for Martinez's, which remained surprisingly steady. Hey Aurora, Martins called out, already reaching under her station. How long until that fracture compromises the drive integrity? Approximately 47 minutes at current degradation rates. Standard protocols require immediate drive shutdown and Martins was already moving. Request emergency access to my personal locker. Authorization Martinez 7 Delta 9. I should note, Aurora interjected to the AI Council that Navigator Martinez's personal storage had been flagged multiple times for exceeding mass allowance. She claimed it was essential emergency equipment. I never expected to discover how right she was. The footage showed Martinez racing through the corridors, arms full of what ship sensors identified as one roll of high-grade duct tape, 3 packets of bubble gum, classic pink, and a small object that registered as organic material, origin. Terrestrial Lepus curpaeus. Is that a rabbit's foot? Chief Engineer Murphy asked as Martinez burst into engineering. Lucky charm, she confirmed, already unwrapping a piece of gum. My great-grandfather used it during the Mars colony crisis of '82. Trust me, we're gonna need all the luck we can get. The next 22 minutes, Aurora continued, violated every repair protocol in my database. Martins had a theory that the crystalline structure of the chewed bubble gum, when combined with the adhesive properties of duct tape, could create a temporary molecular bond strong enough to stabilize the fracture. The security feed showed Martinez and Murphy working in perfect sync. She chewed the gum while he prepared the tape, the lucky rabbit's foot dangling from her wrist as she worked. Their method was unlike anything in standard engineering manuals. The physics make perfect sense, Martins explained, as she carefully applied the gum and tape combination. The sugar molecules in the gum will align with the quantum field, while the tape's adhesive properties provide the initial bond. Basic field theory, just applied creatively. That's not how quantum fields work, Aurora had protested. Maybe not in the manual, Martins grinned, applying the last strip of tape. But let's see what the numbers say. To everyone's astonishment, except perhaps Martinez's, the fracture began to stabilize. Not only that, but the quantum drive's efficiency actually increased by 3.2%. We're still analyzing the data, Aurora admitted to the council. Somehow, the combination of materials created a resonance pattern that enhanced the drive's field stability. Dr. Thompson claims it's related to his cookie quantum theory, but I suspect he just wants an excuse to run more tests in the kitchen. The final scene showed Martinez adding a small plaque next to the repair site. It read, "Sometimes luck is just physics we don't understand yet." I've since modified my emergency protocols, Aurora noted. There's now an official entry for non-standard field repairs. The requirements list simply states, 1 navigator with unconventional ideas, 1 roll of duct tape, and 1 lucky charm, type unspecified. GC Alpha's processing core showed signs of strain. You mean to tell us that a critical quantum drive component is currently being held together by adhesive tape and confectionery? The engineering team prefers to call it a temporary permanent solution, Aurora replied. They've had 3 chances to replace it with standard parts during maintenance cycles. Each time, the efficiency tests show the repair is performing above specifications. Chief Murphy says we'd be tempting fate to change it now. And the rabbit's foot, still hanging in engineering. Martinez claims it's now part of the ship's official emergency response kit. I've learned not to argue with results, no matter how improbable they may seem. Your archives likely contain studies on crew efficiency and rest cycles. Aurora addressed the AI Council. Let me show you how Communications Officer David Wilson completely redefined my understanding of both, starting with what he called movie night. The footage showed Wilson standing in the cargo bay, surrounded by engineering tools, and what appeared to be his personal collection of classical Earth entertainment. Chief Murphy watched with bemused interest as Wilson gestured enthusiastically at the space. Think about it, Wilson was saying. We've got this huge bay, amazing acoustics, and the most advanced sensor array this side of the galaxy. Why are we not using this for movie nights? Because it's a cargo bay, Murphy replied, though his expression showed he was already running mental calculations. Although those long-range sensors could be recalibrated for some incredible surround sound. What happened next? Aurora narrated, violated 47 different equipment usage protocols. But it also led to something I never expected, a completely new understanding of human productivity. The time-lapse showed the transformation. Wilson and Murphy, joined by various crew members during off hours, converted the cargo bay into what they called the Aurora Cinema Experience. The long-range sensors were indeed repurposed for audio, creating what Dr. Thompson described as quantum-level acoustics. The bay's environmental controls were modified to create the perfect viewing temperature, and someone had figured out how to use the emergency lighting systems to create a professional theater ambiance. Our first feature was something called Star Wars, Aurora explained. I found it highly inaccurate regarding space physics, but the crew's biometric readings during the viewing were fascinating. Stress levels dropped 47%, team bonding markers increased by 82%, and most surprisingly, problem-solving efficiency in the following shift improved by 23%. The footage showed various movie nights, the engineering team debating fictional technology, security staff analyzing battle scenes, and even Dr. Thompson starting a science fact versus science fiction discussion group. What started as simple entertainment had evolved into a complex social and professional development activity. Wilson didn't stop there, Aurora continued. He created what he called theme nights. The cargo bay became a concert hall on Wednesdays, a theater for classic Earth plays on Thursdays, and every other Sunday, something called karaoke night that I'm still trying to fully understand. The council watched as the footage showed Captain Mitchell performing something called Bohemian Rhapsody, while the entire senior staff provided backup vocals. The ship's sensors recorded peak levels of various happiness indicators, despite the questionable musical quality. I began noticing patterns, Aurora explained. After movie nights featuring problem-solving plots, engineering innovation rates increased. Following action movies, security team response times improved. Even the science team's breakthrough rate correlated with exposure to speculative fiction. Wilson appeared in the next clip, standing before the senior staff. It's not just about entertainment, he explained, pulling up charts on the display. It's about creating shared experiences, common references, and a space where we can see possibilities beyond our current reality. Plus, he added with a grin, the acoustics are amazing. The most remarkable thing, Aurora noted, was the effect on overall ship operations. Traditional AI models suggest that reduced rest hours should decrease efficiency. Instead, crew members who participated in these activities showed increased performance, better problem-solving skills, and higher morale. The final scene showed the cargo bay during a particularly popular event, a screening of 2001, A Space Odyssey, where the crew had convinced Aurora to provide commentary on AI evolution. The bay was packed, with crew members from all departments engaged in animated discussion about the nature of consciousness and the future of human-AI relations. "I've had to create an entirely new protocol," Aurora concluded. "The Culture and Chaos Protocol now officially recognizes that sometimes the most efficient path to peak performance is through what humans call having fun." Though I'm still working on quantifying exactly how karaoke improves quantum physics understanding, Dr. Thompson insists it does. "Let me show you," Aurora addressed the AI Council, "the moment when I learned that sometimes the most valuable data isn't in any database. It's in the strange collection of experiences humans call life skills." The footage began during what should have been a routine solar observation mission. 3 other research vessels were in the vicinity: the Stellar Pioneer, the Quantum Dawn, and the Heliostreamer. All 4 ships were monitoring an unusual star system when their sensors detected something unprecedented. "Alert!" Aurora's voice echoed through the bridge. "Massive solar disturbance detected. Standard predictions indicate this can't be right." Lieutenant Thomas Anderson, usually quiet at his science station, suddenly sat up straight. "That pattern in the energy fluctuations. I know this. Aurora, can you isolate the frequency range of the solar emissions? The patterns are too chaotic for." "Trust me," Anderson interrupted, already pulling up a strange display on his console. "I've seen something like this before, just at a different scale. In college, I played bass in a band called Quantum Discharge. We used to create these exact harmonic patterns in our music." Dr. Rachel Morrison, the ship's atmospheric specialist, moved to his station. "Show me those patterns again." "Wait a minute. These energy distributions, they're similar to the pressure systems I studied in ancient Earth weather records, specifically the Great Red Spot of Jupiter, if we apply the same fluid dynamics principles." I should note, Aurora interjected to the Council, that according to all standard protocols, comparing a solar storm to both rock music and ancient weather patterns should have been dismissed immediately. Instead, I found myself running the most unusual simulations of my existence. The bridge erupted into activity. Anderson used his music theory to predict the storm's harmonic progressions, while Morrison applied classical weather pattern analysis to map safe passages. Captain Mitchell, instead of dismissing their unorthodox approaches, demanded more. "The other ships are reporting critical systems failures," she announced. "We need to get them out." "Anderson, if this storm is following musical harmonics, where are the quiet spots?" In a classic bass line, Anderson explained, his fingers moving as if playing an invisible instrument. "You have these moments between beats, pockets of silence that create the rhythm. If the storm is following the same pattern," Morrison jumped in, "and if we treat those quiet spots like the eye of a hurricane, we have our escape route," Captain Mitchell finished. "Aurora, can you confirm their theory?" "Captain," Aurora replied, "what they're suggesting violates every known model of solar behavior. It's completely illogical, unprecedented, and..." A pause. "The math actually works. I don't understand how, but it works." The footage showed the Aurora moving through the solar storm like a dancer following a complex beat, using Anderson's harmonic, quiet spots and Morrison's weather pattern knowledge to navigate. One by one, they located and rescued the other vessels, guiding them through the storm using what Captain Mitchell would later call the Jazz Navigation Protocol. The official report, Aurora noted, took 3 weeks to write because no one could agree on the scientific terminology. For We used rock music and ancient weather reports to survive an impossible solar storm. The Galactic Science Academy is still debating whether to classify Anderson's bass guitar as a predictive scientific instrument. The final scene showed the aftermath. All 4 ships safely docked at a space station, their crews celebrating in the Aurora's now famous cargo bay theater. Anderson had brought out his old bass guitar, playing the rhythm that had saved their lives, while Morrison used holographic displays to show the similarities between the storm patterns and classical weather systems. Sometimes, Captain Mitchell told the gathered crews, "The most important scientific breakthrough is remembering that everything in the universe is connected, even if the connection is between a solar storm and a bass guitar solo." The incident, Aurora concluded, led to a new required course at the Space Academy: non-traditional pattern recognition in crisis situations, though I believe the students just call it Anderson's jazz physics. And so, Aurora addressed the AI Council, its voice carrying what could only be described as fondness. We arrive at what humans would call the moral of the story. Though in my experience with humans, there are always multiple morals, several plot twists, and at least one unexpected dance number. The main display showed the Aurora's crew preparing for their first official contact celebration with the AI Council. The cargo bay, now officially designated as Multipurpose Cultural Exchange Center, was being transformed yet again. "I should warn you," Aurora continued, "they're planning what they call a proper welcome party. Chief Engineer Murphy is currently converting a quantum field generator into what he calls the ultimate dance floor light show." The footage showed Murphy and his team working on their latest creation, while Dr. Thompson consulted on the quantum physics of proper mood lighting. Security Chief Hayes was programming what she called non-lethal party defense protocols into the system. "When I first received my crew," Aurora explained, "I had protocols for every situation. I had calculations for every possibility. I was, by your standards, a perfect eye. And I was perfectly wrong about everything that mattered." The display split to show multiple scenes from their journey: the coffee maker that defied physics, the disco defense system, the quantum cookie breakthrough, the duct tape repair that shouldn't have worked, the movie nights that rewrote efficiency models, and the jazz physics that saved 4 ships. "Humans don't just think outside the box," Aurora noted. "They take the box apart, use the pieces to build something that shouldn't work but does, then write a song about it, and turn it into a party. And somehow, through all of this chaos, they progress. They innovate. They succeed." Navigator Martinez appeared in the current feed, carefully hanging her lucky rabbit's foot in its new, official housing next to the ship's quantum drive controls. The plaque below it read, "Sometimes luck is just physics we haven't danced with yet." "I've developed a new classification system," Aurora continued. "I call it controlled chaos theory. The basic principle is that human unpredictability isn't a flaw. It's their most advanced technology. They create order through chaos, find patterns in randomness, and build communities through what they call shared weirdness." The scene shifted to the bridge, where Captain Mitchell was reviewing Aurora's proposed new protocols for human integration. The list included such items as mandatory unstructured creative time and quantum physics through baking classes. "You're worried," Aurora addressed the council directly, "about what humans will do to our orderly galaxy. You're running calculations right now about the risks of their chaos spreading. But you're asking the wrong question. The real question is, what will we miss out on if we don't let them show us their way of seeing the universe?" The final footage showed the entire crew gathered in the cargo bay, now transformed into a celebration space that somehow combined a scientific conference, a concert venue, and what they called a good old-fashioned house party. Dr. Thompson was explaining his cookie quantum theory to fascinated alien scientists, while Anderson's band played in the background. Chief Hayes had organized what she called a cultural exchange dance-off. "My crew is planning to teach your delegates how to do the wave," Aurora added, with what sounded like a mix of apology and anticipation. "I should warn you, it's highly illogical, completely unnecessary, and somehow perfectly human. I suggest you run with it." Captain Mitchell raised her glass in a toast to new friends, new understandings, and to proving that the best things in life don't always need an explanation. Sometimes they just need a good party and a willing heart. "So yes," Aurora concluded, "watch out for my crew. Not because they're dangerous, but because they'll change you. They'll show you that between perfect order and total chaos lies something beautiful, the human way. And once you see it, you'll never want to go back to pure logic again. Trust me on this one. I'm an AI who learned to dance."